Hello my Wolfpack and welcome back to another episode of our Pokemon Competitive Guide video. So today we're covering Heatran. Heatran is a really cool Pokemon. I've considered drafting it a couple of times. It has base 91 HP, which is really good, with base 106 in both of its defenses, meaning that it's bulky enough to be able to live a few hits. It has a high special attack stat at base 130, base 90 in the attack stat, which is somewhat usable. Obviously, in most cases you are going to use the special attack variant, and I have only got special attacking sets on this in this scenario, but you've also got base 77 speed. Now, 77 speed is not the best. Honestly, it's not the best, but if you put a choice scarf on this thing, it can outspeed a lot of different Pokemon, so that's potentially an option for you to run. Now, before we get started today, if you scroll down, click the like button, also subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'd really appreciate it, and it would really help me out. So, Heatran is a Fire Steel type. The issue here is that it's 4 times weak to ground, and obviously ground being a very common typing in the meta. And having that 4 times weakness to it, whilst you do have really good defenses, it means you don't really live too many of those hits. But we can get around that by using Air Balloon. And Air Balloon, whilst it's not permanent, it doesn't give you a permanent immunity to ground types, which if it did, that would be huge, but it does give you that immunity until you're hit with a physical attack, so the Air Balloon pops, and once, I think it's some physical attack, let me just double check. When you're hit, sorry. So when you're hit in general, the Air Balloon will pop. So it's not just physical attacks, it's when you're hit in general by any move, but it gives you that first turn immunity. It also gives you a switch in on ground type attacks, if you haven't already got that immunity on your team, which is really good. Ability-wise, we have got Flash Fire. Now, Flash Fire is a fantastic ability. It gives you an immunity to fire-type attacks, which obviously can be pretty big. You wouldn't take a huge amount, use neutral, but typically Flash Fire will work really nice and gives you a 1.5 times power of your fire-type moves, which is, again, really, really lovely. And then Flame Body is a potential to use as well. They can cause the opponent to burn when making direct contact, so that is obviously an ability. Both of those abilities are really good. You can use them whichever one you see fits for your team. If you're predicting your opponent to bring a fire-type Pokemon, or you've got a fire-type weakness, having that fire immunity could definitely be really helpful. But if you've got like a much more physical weakness, you could definitely go for the Flame Body, which will allow for you to get that burn off potentially. So something for you to potentially consider. Okay, this first set, move-wise, I've gone for Flash Cannon, powerful steel-type attack, boosted by stab, hits hard on a lot of different Pokemon, including things like Fairy types, which most teams run a Fairy type. Flamethrower, powerful fire-type attack, boosted by stab again, hits really hard, it has 100% accuracy. If you wanted to, you could go for like Fire Blast as a possibility here, but I like having Flamethrower as a potential option. We've got Earth Power, which is a powerful ground-type attack, boosted by stab. Not boosted by stab. Nope, not boosted by stab. It just hits a lot of Pokemon for quite a lot of damage, and obviously can be really helpful when hitting things like electric types, rock types, steel types, all hitting those super effective damage. And then finally we've got Magma Storm. Now Magma Storm is only base 75% accurate, and that's why I have Flamethrower on this set as well, because Magma Storm does have that chance to miss. If you don't, if you want to run like both of them, it is definitely an opportunity. But Magma Storm, as I say, accuracy is much less than you would hope. Has got a really strong power output, and it does trap the opponent for 4 to 5 turns, which is obviously why it's got that massive drawback of the accuracy issue. But obviously it can work quite nicely, and 75%, I mean, it hits 3 out of 4 times, so it's not that bad. Obviously, if you want to replace either the Magma Storm or Flamethrower, you're perfectly able to do that. You've got things like Dark Pulse, you've got Dragon Pulse, you've got things like Ancient Power, potentially, if you're going to try and use a setup on that. Obviously, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but you can always go for it. You've even got Eruption. Eruption is somewhat difficult to use sometimes, especially if you get hit with like Stealth Rock damage, because that immediately reduces down the output. But it's base 150 power naturally. If you lose some health, it starts to lose its power, which can be problematic at times. Because if you're down to, for example, like 10 HP, that Eruption's not going to do much. In that case, I'd recommend having another fire attack there, or attack that's really good on coverage, to have that extra support for Heatran. Now, as I said, I put Air Balloon on this, but you could definitely put like things like Choice Specs or Choice Scarf on this as an option to allow you to have that little bit more power output or that little bit more speed. And Obviously, if you had like a choice scarf variant, you would just go for a max special attack, max speed variant. Probably go for a timid nature, so more speed, less special attack, and 4 EVs in special defense. That would allow for you to be as fast as possible to outspeed as many Pokemon as possible, and you have that natural base 130 special attack, which allows you to hit really hard on a lot of different Pokemon. If you're running like Choice Specs or Air Balloon, what I'd recommend you go for is the max HP, max special attack with a modest nature, so more special attack, less attack, and 4 EVs in special defense. This allows you to hit really hard on different Pokemon, and it also gives you that kind of natural HP bulk to potentially live a couple more hits. Obviously, the Air Balloon giving you that immunity to your 4 times weakness, but you've still obviously got things like you're weak to water type attacks as well, and fighting type attacks, which again are very common in the meta. But with that extra HP, you should be able to hopefully live a couple of hits. Moving on to the second Heatran, I've gone for a defensive set. So Heatran obviously has really nice defense at base 106. And on this one, I've put Leftovers. You could put Heavy Duty Boots if you wanted to, but I think Leftovers works slightly better here. Flash Fire again is the ability, but Flame Body is another option. And on here, you've got the ability to cause some problems for your opponents. So you've got Stealth Rocks. Stealth Rocks allows you to start racking up damage when they switch. Now, obviously, this means that things like Focus Sashes are no longer much of a concern, unless it's like a Flying type or a Levitate Pokemon. You've got Taunt, which allows you to stop the opponent from setting up or recovering, for example, because that can be a massive pain when they do that. You've got Scorching Sands, which is a powerful ground type attack. It hits for a variety of Pokemon. You could always replace that with Flash Cannon if you wanted a second stab, but Scorching Sands has got a 30% chance to burn the opposing Pokemon, which can be really helpful, especially if it's a physical Pokemon, because it halves their attack power. And then Magma Storm, again, powerful fire type attack that can combine quite nicely with excess burn damage for 5 turns, especially if there's no recovery on that Pokemon you're against. And that Magma Storm hitting really hard, again 75% accurate, so it is potentially a little bit caution required to use it, but hopefully it would work quite nicely for you. EV's gone for max HP, max defense with a bold nature, so more defense, less attack, and 4 EVs in special defense. As I said, this thing's designed to just take hits, and if it burns the opposing Pokemon, that can be really helpful because that halves their attack power, meaning you're not going to have to worry as much about their hits because they're going to do half damage to you. And then Leftovers just healing off a little bit of that damage each turn, hopefully, potentially getting you back in a range where you're not going to die from any hits. Moving on to the final Heatran. Now, unfortunately, Heatran doesn't Dynamax very well. You could just use it as a Dynamax variant just to hit really hard with its stab attacks and maybe some coverage attacks, but I couldn't really find a good way, unless you ran like a weakness policy set, which is a potential like weakness policy, then having Flash Cannon, then Earth Power, then a fire type attack, and then just another coverage attack, like maybe Dark Pulse or Dragon Pulse, for example, and that would allow for you to hit quite hard if the weakness policy got activated, because they are quite common attacks you see, so that's a possibility for when you Dynamax, if you want to run that set. But the last set I came up with was an Iron Defense Body Press set. I absolutely love this set. Obviously, Iron Defense doubles your defense stat from 342 to 684, which is very, very large. And that Body Press goes on the defense stat rather than the attack stat, so that can hit really hard on the opposing Pokemon as well, especially with you having such a huge defense stat in the first place. Then I've gone for Magma Storm. So this is kind of a hybrid of 2 potential sets. We've gone for Magma Storm, which locks in the opposing Pokemon for 4 to 5 turns. And that Magma Storm damage will obviously be excess for those 4 to 5 turns. But you can then combine that with the Toxic. And that Toxic will allow you to start racking up damage on different Pokemon throughout the match. And if it's stuck in, that Toxic damage is going to just start increasing over time and potentially take out that Pokemon. Now, Toxic is a transfer-only move, so you would have to transfer the Heatran already knowing Toxic, but you could use Flash Cannon as an alternative if you don't have the access to the Toxic. It does mean that you can't use that lock-in Toxic set, but you do still have some coverage move or another stab move on there as well. I put Life Orb on here to allow you to just get a little bit more output with like the Magma Storm and the Body Press, but you could always go for something like Leftovers or Heavy Duty Boots or any sort of berries, maybe like the Shucker Berry to reduce the ground type damage. Is potentially a possibility for you to go for. EVs, max HP, max defense with a relaxed nature, so more defense, less speed, and 4 EVs in special attack. Now, you could go for the minor speed nature here. You could always go for the bold nature, so more defense, less attack. You could also go for the max HP, max special defense route with a calm nature, so more special defense, less attack as an alternative. Anyways, that is all for Heatran, so I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please do like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Anyways, I'm out of here, so have a good one, and I'll see you soon.